Watching the recent dust-up with RFK Jr. and Dr. Peter Hotez, I'm of the mind that if you really want to insult someone these days, there's no need to call them a racist. Nope, go with anti-vaxxer. It's a far more effective slur against their character. Those who utter it want you to know that they know you're probably an anti-masker as well, and you likely don't like public schools, and you're likely against big government, and probably you're one of those odd people that wants to do their own research on topics of major relevance to you, like vaccines. Who could have imagined that doing your own research was code for you being an ignorant conspiracy theorist, instead of someone whose only interest is a quest for the truth? Say something critical of vaccines, and you're automatically deemed a threat to humanity itself. Someone who must be purged from polite, informed society, regardless of whether what you said is true. Of course, all of this could be settled with a debate, but for pro-vaccine advocates, this is a non-starter, given the science has already been settled. But have you ever noticed that the arguments against vaccine skepticism, the arguments coming from people who are rabidly pro-vaccine, are always underinformed and verging on the completely ignorant? Most people will simply claim that experts have proven it, that vaccines are safe on a global scale. What experts? How did they prove it? Most people can't say off the top of their heads. Maybe they'll cite someone like the WHO. They sound like experts. But aren't these the same folks who told us monkeypox was a clear and present danger to all of humanity? Didn't these folks also get the origins of COVID wrong? So I'm not completely sold on the fact that they've got everyone's best interest at heart. Some will babble on about the CDC, that great noble body of regulators in the United States that a few years ago told you that a strip of cotton draped across your face was a sufficient barrier against an infectious disease. Sometimes your critics, as if they still talk to you, they'll send you a study that professes to demonstrate the safety of vaccines. It's usually one they came across doing what all reputable experts seem to do these days when they need evidence to support their positions. They Google it. So long as a study even vaguely reinforces their hypothesis, they send it to you, expecting it to be the end of the argument. Did they read the study? Well, does that really matter? Did they even read the abstract? Did they review the methodology used to arrive at said conclusion of study? Did they examine the funding of the study and or the funding of the peer-reviewed body that approved it? Did they review peer responses to the study, either in the form of editorial letters or countervailing studies? How often do you think anyone goes to these lengths before emailing you a link and saying, "See, that proves it"? I can guarantee you they spent more time typing the email than vetting the content. Now, in fairness, you could reasonably argue that this level of investigation is impossible for anyone who wants to have a life outside of debating people. Makes sense. That's why we as a society have relied upon intermediaries, the experts, and in turn to them to help us get the things we're after, like the facts. That's what we employ them for. Sadly, though, we rarely ever check their work to see if they measure up. Even if we did, we would likely, in all honesty, be a little out of our depth. That's why we rely upon other experts to cross-check their work. Well, at least we used to. After all, before you make any monumental decision about putting something in your body, shouldn't you, at a minimum, have a full risk and benefit analysis argued both by those for and against it? Now, like the reflexive worship and reliance on studies, there's also an innate response by those in the Western world to push back against anyone who questions the science, narrative, etc., due to a sincere belief that there's simply no way that experts and regulators could get it all so wrong. This is usually predicated on their misguided belief that deep down, we're all just good people. These folks naively give government, regulators, and the experts a pass when it comes to the possibility these folks could be less than virtuous and altruistic as they profess to be. They'd say, sure, these folks screw things up sometimes, but would they really let millions and millions of children be injected with unsafe pharmaceuticals every year? They couldn't fathom that these folks would drop the ball so profoundly, either maliciously or accidentally. To which I would reply, do you think they might? I mean, after all, are experts ever wrong? Do they get it right 100% of the time? Have they ever gotten something wrong, sometimes profoundly wrong, like Fauci did with AIDS? If you're being honest with yourself, you couldn't say, no way, they've never done that. So what's stopping them from doing so this time? Do you have some special inside knowledge the rest of us don't? Now, be honest. Do you have any other reason to trust the vaccines other than, I'm scared to not get them? Or perhaps, I'd be really embarrassed if people found out I was skeptical of vaccines and afraid I'd be shunned by family and friends. Maybe some vaccines are perfectly safe, while others aren't. And those in either camp for or against a certain vaccine could easily be wrong. But at a minimum, let's at least be honest about the standards by which we're judging the question. Unthinking, uncritical acceptance of vaccines is currently seen as a sort of admission requirement into polite society. It's made abundantly clear by our overlords that good, normal, caring people simply do not have any skepticism over vaccines at all, period, in any way, shape, or form. The only ones who do are weird, abnormal, scary people, the kind of people who should be shunned and shamed for their bizarre insistence on wanting to learn more about the medicines they're taking or giving to their children. The vaccine debate is essentially all politics now. No science, indeed. It's widely believed that the less scientific inquiry, the better, as uttered time and time again by hardcore vaccine proponents themselves. For them, no debate is the best debate. You would think that those committed to comprehensive vaccination would welcome a robust debate by those who've got questions, as it would lay to rest the notion that those in the pro-vaccination camp are being guided by a set of values, the foremost being actual science. Anyway, I thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can always follow me on my Rumble or my Locals account. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so, and I will see you next time.